Hey, Mike, what do Kelly Slater and PT have in common?
I don't know. They're both world champs?
Nope, they both own Endless Summer box set.
Oh my God, rad. You guys, you can get it too. The link's in the show notes.
On a slippery, big guns like Mark Food. Trap jumping like a kangaroo.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Quivercast, where we chat with surfers from all around the world, from all walks of life, and we get their story. Find us at www.thequivercast.com. I am Mike, your host. Let's get into the show. Hello everyone. Today we have Cory Pierce on the show. How are you doing, Cory?
I'm good. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it. You've been surfing your whole life.
Yeah, I started when I was 10 years old. So yeah, pretty much my whole life, 40 years.
But where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Agora, which is it's like about 20 minutes inland from Malibu, Zuma area.
20 minutes today too? Or just used
maybe
to be 20 minutes?
Well, I live in Thousand Oaks now, so I'm like a little.
Okay.
I'm probably like 10 more minutes. So good thing is I'm closer to Ventura and Oxnard. So
Okay. What about traffic is what I mean, actually. Traffic's gnarly now.
it can get bad. It has its moments.
But back as a kid, as a Grom, like, how did you get surfing being like kind of an inland, like valley guy? Would that be considered the valley? Or
It's
not
like
really?
Yeah, I mean, we still got called Valley guys, but I think since we were like a little further north than the Valley, that we kind of
Okay.
to us we were kind of a little bit separate. I think we still got roped in by all the beach guys for sure.
But okay, before we go deep into how you started surfing, I want to know how many true locals are there in Malibu? Like, how many guys actually live within a couple miles of Surf Rider Beach?
There's a few. Well, actually, like actual Surf Rider Beach.
Or like in Malibu. Let's just say Malibu.
There's a couple, but most of the ones that did grow up there, there's a couple, but not a
Okay.
lot. And most of the ones that did grow up there kind of are doing other things now. And then there's not a lot of new blood there that moved there from the
Okay.
valley or wherever. But
Okay,
yeah.
so they kind of surf there. So you're a kid that's living 20 minutes from the beach. Like, how did you get into surfing? Was it just hot and you needed to go to the water, or like what was the deal?
No, it's weird. My dad grew up surfing Malibu when
Okay.
in the 60s.
Oh, rad.
He grew up in Woodland Hills, went to Taft High School, and was part of like a surf club. And they hung out at Malibu all the time and drove up to Ventura when, the road was still just a 2-lane highway. And
Wow.
that was a mission for them. But they would go up there and surf uncrowded waves at like C Street and stuff. And so he got me into it. Just one day when I was like 10, he's like, "Hey, I found this surfboard in the recycler," which was like a little
Yeah,
classified.
the newspaper.
And he's like, "You want to try surfing?" I was like, "Yeah." So he got me this board. It said like "no fat chicks" on the bottom,
Yes, that's
and
rad.
it was called homegrown. So it was probably some guy just shaped it, and it was a cool little thruster, but it was like 6 foot, and I was so little that it was like riding a fun board for me. So
That's so rad.
yeah, I remember the first day he took me surfing to Lower Mondos.
Okay.
Up in Ventura, and I paddled out and couldn't catch a wave and was like freaking out because of the rocks. So then he took me to C Street and almost kills me on the shore break at the rocks there because it was super
wow.
high tide. And then I begged him to just take me somewhere where it was a sand bottom because that was
Okay.
what I was used to. And
Yeah.
we got to Zuma and I caught my first wave and I was like, "Oh my God, this is insane. This is the most
Rad.
incredible thing ever." And then a lifeguard yelled at me and said, "Hey, you can't surf here. It's blackballed.
Oh.
You can't surf."
Oh. The day you're going to go. The
Yeah.
day it was happening.
It happened. It was done by then. I was like, well, it didn't matter. That was all I was going to do from now on.
So you're like harassing your dad, let's go to the beach all the time, or?
Yeah. My dad's disabled, so he didn't
Okay.
work. He was getting disability because he's got ankylosing spondylitis. He's got really bad arthritis in his spine. He's had hip replacements. He's got Crohn's disease. So he got dealt kind of a crappy hand. He was disabled basically since I was like 3 years old is when he got diagnosed. So,
Wow.
but so he kind of lived vicariously through me, and
That's
I
right.
lucked out because he would drive me to the beach, pull me out of school. He was home all the time, and he would film me, and he knew about surfing, so he would kind of coach me a little bit, and he was always really interested in like getting me into like contests and traveling up and down the coast, and it was pretty awesome.
Wow.
It was a good childhood.
So you actually never have surfed with your dad?
He actually used to go out on his knees sometimes, and
Okay.
a friend of his, my friend Pat Notaro, his dad is Pat Notaro Sr. He passed away a while back. He was like my dad's good friend. They actually knew each other in high school and stuff, and he used to push my dad into waves on like a big soft top. I actually caught a wave with him at Lower Mondos once. I got a picture of it. It's pretty rad.
Oh, cool. But your dad was like, love the lifestyle and the sport of it, or what?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, he still does. He texts me in the middle of the night because he's watching the WSL event in J Bay right now. So,
Oh, that's
so
right.
he's 100% into it.
You kind of progress over a couple of years. When's your first contest? Like, you're young?
I think it was probably about a year into it, maybe less.
Wow.
I did a WSA District 4. This guy, David Lansdowne, was the guy that used to put those contests on. I went down there and I remember it was just me and Strider Wazalewski were the only kids our age in the Menahuni division. And he was already like sponsored by like Town and Country and like,
Oh, okay.
so he was like down there, blonde hair, all sunburnt, and I was just like out of my element a little bit.
Uh-huh.
And I'd start out getting, it was just me and Strider, man on man heats every single time. And then
Straight final.
yeah, straight final. And we would just battle back and forth. Eventually I got good pretty quick just from doing contests and from surfing a lot. So I was able to beat him eventually, and then we would just have battles. And then another Grom at the time from Venice, Rick Massey,
Okay.
great dude. It was me, Strider, and him, and we would just body surf, and then we'd go surf our heat, and then we'd go back out and body surf, and it was just like we had unlimited energy at the time, and
Wow.
it was pretty cool. Yeah, and then we looked up to a lot of all the older
course.
guys that were ripping too, so
Yeah.
that was cool.
Do you remember like the first conversation you had with Strider? Like, were you guys enemies at first until you surfed the heat, or were you like, he's your age, you just want to hang out?
Yeah, no, we were never enemies. It was
Okay.
I just felt like a little bit. I was probably a little bit shy because he already knew everyone there, and I was
Yeah.
out of my element. Like I played little league and soccer,
Yeah.
and like never been to like a organized surf contest. Like I didn't even know what I was doing, to be honest.
Right.
I just remember being like, we were at like Bay Street. It was like 1 foot crap, and Strider lived right there on the beach. And
Okay. Yeah.
so
Walked out his front door.
I was just a bit timid. Everybody was really friendly, and they liked the fact that I was young, and there weren't a lot of young kids surfing contests back
Yeah.
then. And some people took me under their wing. I think I got my first sponsor at the first invitational. So you used to have to surf like a regional event, and then you get invited
Okay.
to the invitational. That's where I met Dan Egan, who shaped surfboards, ignorant
okay.
surfboards. He was out of the valley, and eventually had a shop here in Agora for a long time. He scooped me up pretty quick and started making me surfboards and coaching me and helped my progression pretty quickly.
Wow. That's cool. So everyone was helping you, from your dad all to the older dudes.
Yeah.
In the beach.
Yeah,
That's
it was
so rad.
that LA community was pretty awesome. We all kind of stuck together.
Do you think that because you guys lived a little bit away from the beach and you guys all surfed, did that bring you guys closer, you think?
I just think, I mean, there were definitely like little cliques all over the place.
Okay.
And some of the beach guys, some of the guys that lived at the beach might have been a little bit separated from the guys that lived inland in the valley. But we all surfed. The valley guys ripped, honestly. Like Evan Caples was.
You rip.
Well, thanks.
Seen videos. I've seen videos.
But I mean, back then it was like Ricky Schaefer's from the Valley, Evan Capel's
Oh
from
yeah.
the Valley, Joey Jenkins, Jamie Brisick. I grew up with his sister, so Jamie was like a hero to me. And then we had
Yeah,
Willie
I bet.
Morris to look up to. So there was guys from the Valley that were ripping. So
Willie Morris is from the Valley?
yeah, he grew up in San Fernando Valley, Woodland Hills.
Really? I didn't know
Yeah,
that. And you couldn't get away from that guy. He was in the magazine, every magazine, 10
dude,
pictures.
he was yeah.
Everywhere.
My first surf movie I ever owned was Performers, and I was
Uh-huh.
I would watch his video part, and then I'd see him at Malibu and just be like starstruck. So
Right.
that was
Yeah,
cool.
it'd pump you up. Yeah, that's so rad. So did you ever get to become friends with Willie?
A little bit here and there.
Okay.
I actually when I went to Dan Egan's bachelor party. He was on the bus, and we snuck onto the bus when I was like 14 or 15, and we snuck on
Oh,
the
that's
bus.
funny.
So he was there, but yeah, I mean, we weren't super tight, but he was always
Age
a hero.
bracket difference.
Yeah, big
of
time.
course. Right on. Your dad's taking you to different breaks, but are you surfing Malibu a lot too, or where's your go-to? Zuma?
Summertime is Malibu, wintertime is Rincon, Pitus
You're
Point,
surfing the points.
those zones. Yeah, Zuma if it's small, Santa Clara, Rivermouth, Santa Clara. Ventura is still a little bit funky. Some of the spots up there. Rivermouth you could surf. We'd go to like Wainimi, you could surf the south end. There was still like I'd get vibed a little bit.
Okay. Of course. Yeah, that place is gnarly.
I'm
Or it
super,
was.
I'm super good friends with all the guys that used to vibe me now, though, so it's not really. It wasn't a big deal.
Yeah. Were you going to Oxnard and stuff too? Like when it was in their heyday, 80s, when it was gnarly?
I would surf Oxnard Shores because my grandfather lived there. My grandpa had a house right there, so
Oh, cool.
I felt like nobody could really tell me anything there because
Right.
I was connected.
Yes.
But when it came to like surfing the North Jetty, or they
Mhm.
called it South Jetty at Santa Clara, that zone was kind of held down a little bit. So those guys would give me crap. I could surf the knoll like down by the river mouth. That wasn't usually a problem. I never surfed Silver Strand, never ever.
Never even showed up to look
Not
at
back
it. Huh?
then. Now it's like soft tops and anybody's out
Crazy,
there.
right?
Yeah, it's nuts. It blows my mind. I tell people every time I see them, I'm like, this still blows my mind. Like, it's so weird.
It was gnarly.
Yeah. And then Wainimi, like if you get too close to the pier, you get hassled there. I had a guy hassle me and a friend of mine for surfing the south side of the pier. So
Really?
yeah, that was back in I don't know, probably like late 80s, maybe early 90s.
So what it sounds like you were traveling to you were finding waves. You weren't going to like I'm surfing Surfrider no matter if it's 1 foot or 10 foot. Like it wasn't
Yeah,
that.
no, I would be all over the place.
Did that help you think? Or did you think were you kind of inconspicuous, kind of sliding under the radar? Like traveling to different spots and not going to the same spot every day?
I wouldn't say inconspicuous because I had bright wetsuits and all the 80s gear and stuff, but
Of course. But so did everyone else. To that.
well, not the Ventura guys. Those guys didn't have that.
Oh, wearing black
So,
suits?
yeah, so me showing up like wearing bright
That's funny.
suits, that kind of drew attention to myself. Luckily, I surfed the contest with those guys, and
Okay.
as long as
So
you
you
were
recognize them.
yeah, so they knew who I was. It was usually like their older brothers that would give me shit, or just some like usually the older like loped out guys, but
Yeah.
but it wasn't often. It was, and then when I was in LA, I felt super comfortable, and if I was at Rincon, I felt at home. So I think people saw me around and just knew who I was. So eventually,
Yeah.
you know.
But surfing contests, you're surfing with everybody. I mean,
Oh,
so
yeah.
they're all coming together. So that's how you get to make friends.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right on. Your dad the whole time is what? Just backing you up, doing everything to
Yeah, like he
support you?
he was basically like anytime I see somebody that I haven't seen in a while, the first thing they ask is like, how's my dad doing? So he
Oh,
was
cool.
he was like a father figure for everyone. Or
That's
like
right.
he was friends, all my friends were friends with him. He'd drive us all to the beach and film us, and like my birthday parties, he would put on a contest. We called it the Cory Pierce Invitational, and we'd
That's
put on
right.
like a little local contest and hand out trophies and stickers and prizes and stuff. It was pretty cool.
That's so cool. All right. How many times did you win the Cory Pierce Invitational.
I think we had it twice, and I think I won it twice. I think I'm undefeated. But there was no special treatment.
Oh, there wasn't. Okay.
I don't
All
think
right.
so. My dad would have judged me harder than anybody else for sure. There's no way.
Okay.
Yeah, he would.
All
He,
right.
he would
It
never.
just sounds bad. I'm just saying.
No, I would go out and get an
I,
eight, and he would score me a 4 every time.
ooh.
Yeah, he was
So that.
hard. He was
Oh
hard on me.
wow.
But
Did you ever come in and have like an argument about the heat sheet? Like, come on,
yeah.
Dad. You know,
Yeah. Well, I mean,
what's this way?
even if we were just practicing, like before, just doing like coaching or something,
Yeah.
we would have little arguments. I was pretty argumentative.
All right, that's funny. Okay, so you're starting to progress, and so at first it's just you and Strider. When did the pool get bigger?
Pool got bigger when I kind of moved on to the NSSA events, probably
Okay.
when I was like 14 or 15. So there was,
So that was quite a bit. You're 5 or 6 years into surfing.
yeah, a little ways into it. Well, I mean, I guess even just going to like the U.S. championships and connecting with people that way. And my first year, I went to the U.S. championships in Florida.
Wow.
So I was 11 years old. My parents didn't even go. I went by myself with like this little group. This guy named Ray Coonsey. I don't know if you've ever heard of Ray Coonsey.
No,
but
I never heard of him.
They used to call him the Enforcer at Malibu. Just a total legend. This guy, just the nicest guy in the world. But apparently he was pretty badass.
On the bad side, you're in
yeah,
trouble.
yeah. But so he was like our chaperone, which was basically like having Chris Farley as a chaperone because he would just play jokes and cause problems. But it was cool. I was with Rob Machado and Jim Machado, his dad, was there, and I guess that was really like the first where I started to like build like a little bigger community within surfing in California and stuff. So it was cool.
So how was that Florida trip?
It was good. I didn't do very well. I think I made it through my first heat. I gave an interference to Nathan Fletcher.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. He didn't look, and I just went, and he got an interference, and Herbie yelled at me when I came in.
Oh, did he?
I was like, maybe I shouldn't have done that. I don't know.
So he was like the soccer dad, Herbie?
He was there. Yeah. I mean, he was. I mean, I think Nathan was like 9 at the time, and I was like 10 or 11. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think I don't think he was real happy with me.
Oh, wow.
But it's a contest. What are you gonna do? Like I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's how I was. So
Oh, right on. Okay, so you're progressing, and then now you're getting sponsors and stuff. You kind of working your way up the surfing ladder.
yeah. So Dan Egan opened up a shop in Agora. Started bringing in some like kind of underground because Val Surf was in the area, so he had to kind
Right.
of go a different
And Val's
route.
huge, right?
Yeah, so he had to kind of separate. So he picked some kind of underground clothing companies and stuff. And my first sponsor, clothing company wise, was Beach Town.
Oh yeah, I'm totally on Beach Town.
Yeah, like Mike Parsons was like one of the big pros.
Like Vince
and,
Klein, maybe, or something.
yeah, I think Vince was on there. Hans Hedeman.
Oh yeah, all those guys.
It was kind of up and coming. Tyler Calloway was the team manager, and he hooked us up. I got to go on a really cool trip with like Dean Randazzo and Mike Parsons and Chris Burke. We went down to Baja and like shot video, and it was pretty rad. It was a neat event. So that was my first sponsor. And then O'Neill always kind of took care of me. I had a guy named Lee Westfall he was a rep in the LA area, and he would flow me O'Neill stuff, and actually I still get wetsuits from him today. So it's pretty
cool.
rad. Yeah.
So you weren't like officially on an O'Neill, or you were?
I never really was like an official O'Neill guy, but
Okay.
I just went through him. I got free suits, so I was like,
That
was
so
all
rad.
I cared about.
And O'Neill, top notch.
Yeah, especially back then, I think they were pretty progressive when it came
They
to
owned it.
wetsuits. Yeah.
At least in America.
so stoked.
Maybe elsewhere. Maybe Rip Curl owned Australia. I don't know.
True, probably. Yeah, I mean, it was Rip Curl and O'Neill were like definitely the top two wetsuits
100%.
around.
Did you get the Team O'Neill thing on there or no?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got a couple like little local ads,
Cool.
stuff like that. Nothing huge. It was rad. I was stoked to be with them. And then I got sponsored once Beach Town I don't remember what happened with Beachtown. Just, I don't know if they went out of business or what happened, but somehow I left them and ended up on Billabong. Bob Hurley was running Billabong, and Mark Reeder was the team manager, and I was there with like CC Beckloff and Chad Navarro and Donovan Frankenreiter and like a bunch of really good surfers. And
Yeah.
that we had like probably the best team, like Jamie George, Pete Rocky, Chris Brown. It was ridiculous.
Wow.
Like
Stacked.
yeah. We would do like NSSA team events and go down and just like dominate.
Yeah.
It was pretty
So
fun.
let me ask you this. You're young, you're early teens, mid-teens. Now you're getting some full, like, legit sponsors. Not that the lower guys aren't. They're legit also. But how do you feel?
So surfing was my life at the time. I was
Okay.
like training and like 100% focused. Like that's all I wanted to do was be a pro surfer. I had no doubt in my
Your
mind
goal.
that that's what I was going to do.
Yeah.
So it was all surfing all the time. I went to public school. There weren't a lot of people doing homeschooling back then. There was no internet or anything. So I was going to public school, but I was taking a lot of time off school to do events and travel a bit. So that was, surfing for me was like ahead of everything. I didn't get good grades in high school just because I really didn't think it was that important.
It wasn't necessary.
For me. I was like happy with C's and D's. I was like, well, it wasn't a big deal to me.
That's a good way to answer it. But let me ask you this way then. Did you feel like you were better than the average surfer because you're proud to be sponsored? I guess is the question. Were you proud?
Oh yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Having those
When you have the stickers?
showing up to a contest and having those stickers on a board or any surf spot and a brand new board with fresh stickers on it, a brand new wetsuit. Like I felt like a pro surfer. I felt like I could tell people were looking at me and seeing me, and I like to think I was pretty humble, but I was also a loudmouth. Like I would be like if I was comfortable and I was at Malibu trying to get waves, I'm sure I was a loudmouth. I'm sure I was.
Okay. Screaming people off waves or like getting out of my way?
I don't know. I thought I was probably bigger than I was or something. I don't know. I mean, I respected the guys that were there all the time and surfed good, and I looked up to them. But if I didn't know who somebody was and they dropped in on me, I'd probably like call them off or maybe. Like,
would they get a tongue lashing?
I'd probably say something stupid, but they'd probably look at me like I was crazy. I don't know.
Okay. So all those years in surfing Malibu, there was, let's say that whole 80s, longboarding wasn't really a thing, right? Was it always a thing in Malibu? Did it ever go away?
Longboarding was always a thing at First Point.
Never lost its glory, huh?
No, but Second Point, like I had a friend, Josh Farborough, who actually my dad grew up with his dad. So we actually knew each other since we were babies. He was a professional longboarder and he dominated First Point. Like he was incredible. He's still incredible.
I bet, yeah.
So he was the First Point guy. Occasionally you'd surf through First Point or you'd maybe get lucky and get one all the way through, but Second Point was kind of the high performance spot. Nowadays, it's kind of a lot of shortboarders move down there just because the Malibu's changed a lot. So it's changed quite a bit from the 80s. I look at some videos and I see like the pace of the wave is a lot slower back then, a lot more rippable. Now it's a really fast wave. It has its moments, but usually it has to have a crossed up swell in order to get those moments.
Okay.
If there's like a full solid swell, it's a runner. Like you're racing pretty much the whole time. Yeah.
At Second Point, you're talking about
That's second and third point. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I remember surfing in the 80s and only a couple times a year, but the Second Point was almost not makeable from what I remember. It had to be huge.
Yeah. It had
6 foot plus.
I mean, I guess it had its moments. Usually it had a lot to do with where the creek was coming out and how that beach changes so much due to sand and where the creek flows and swell direction. It's a south-facing beach, so it's kind of tucked away into this in that Santa Monica Bay. So it takes kind of a specific swell direction to actually get good.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So now your intentions are to be a pro surfer. You're doing everything. Screw school. Let's focus on being a pro. Are your parents? Are they making you try to get good grades, or are they on the program with you? Your program.
I'm getting yelled at when I'm not getting good grades.
Okay.
So yeah, they want me to do well in school. They're I mean, school's important for sure. They were great parents, and
Yeah.
but they also understood like where I was with surfing, and
Hmm.
that occupied a lot of time, and they were pretty lenient when it came to like if I got the opportunity to go travel somewhere or do a
Oh, yeah,
trip
yeah.
somewhere. Actually, I'm surprised they let me go on some trips with with basically no supervision, which is when I was really young, which is pretty crazy thinking about that now. But back then, I guess it wasn't a big deal.
No, I mean, I don't actually. I think it wasn't a big deal. I don't think us as a parent. Are you a parent now?
I have 3 kids. Yeah,
Yeah, you have 3 kids.
yeah,
I just think the kids are raised differently now.
yeah, for sure.
It's
Because
scary.
yeah,
I
it's
would do
scary.
crazy stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
I remember going to Mexico with no adults at 14,
absolutely.
like all the time.
I did. I went to Cabo with Jason Euler and a bunch of other friends, and they like smuggled marijuana into Mexico.
Oh,
So,
that's crazy.
so it was it was pretty nuts. Like looking back on it, like
Yeah.
14 or 15, and they were letting me drive to
Okay.
the surf spots and stuff.
Yeah.
It was pretty crazy.
All right. So now it's time to graduate. What's going on in your life?
Ooh, graduation.
So, like
Sur-
now, this is the time you would probably turn pro, or in this general area kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm doing some PSAA events, doing the OP Pro Junior, which was like the
Oh,
first
cool.
junior event series.
Yeah.
I was doing some like small pro-am events. Kirk Tice, his mom, used to put on some events down in like San Clemente and stuff, and you'd get like Pat O'Connell and Richie Collins and a lot of like really good like guys that were on tour would come and surf.
Yeah.
Shane Bashan. There were so I do a couple of those. Never did great. I had like one PSA heat, like my second round heat at a PSA at Lowers. I had like Brad Gerlach, Derek Ho, who was world champ at the time, and Ricky Schaefer. And I surfed pretty good, but yeah, I was just a little kid, so I don't think I was strong enough to compete with those guys. So I was doing the PSAs. I just wasn't. I was doing well in like the NSSAs
Okay.
still, and once I aged out of that, that's when things kind of started to fade away a little bit as far as from pro surfing thought process.
Really?
Yeah, I got into music. My brother is he was like a prodigy guitar player at 14. He was
Oh, yeah.
pretty amazing, and I would play bass with him, and my friend played drums, and we got a band together. And then I started singing, and things were going pretty good with that band. So I kind of started to lean towards that, not surf as many. I was still surfing contests, but now I had like a dual focus, I guess.
So I mean, did surfing lose its glory, or now you're evened out with something else you enjoyed? That went away because you surfed for so long, and you got.
I think like music and like going up on a stage and having like a full room of people like watching you perform music kind of gave me like that same feeling I got when I was winning contests or surfing like really good waves. And so it kind of started to steal that allure away from surfing for me. That's probably, I never really even thought of it too much, but I guess I liked the attention of it, and I liked the camaraderie that I had with like my friends and with the people I was playing with. It was a short amount of time. It was probably like maybe a 3-year period, but to me it felt like a longer time than that. But looking back on it, it was kind of a short period of time. Yeah, it was definitely kind of that point where it definitely drew me away from not wanting to pay the money to surf a contest and lose first round. Yeah. Like to me, that started to get old and
stressful.
Kind of frustrating. Yeah, I put a lot of pressure on myself, big time. Like right around that time, I ended up getting dropped by Billabong. Mark Reeder, who was the team manager, left, and this guy Paul Gomez took over the team, and he didn't know me very well. I didn't know him too well. He was always around, but I didn't know him. So I got dropped from the team. He basically said, like, just focus on your music, and kind of kicked me to the curb. And then he picked up the Malloys. They were ripping, and they all kind of looked alike, and they were all brothers, and they were all like surfing well. And I think it had a good they were getting photos, and they were doing that marketing aspect. And I was never really one to go out and like seek out like photographers to like follow me. Like I'd go surf and I'd surf contests, but I was never like,
You weren't Worley Morris.
no, I wasn't calling photographers and going, "Hey, let's go surf. Like the waves are good." That was just, I should have, looking back, it would have probably changed a lot in my surfing career, and it could have been good. I don't know. I mean, I don't regret it, but it just wasn't my thing for some reason. I don't know why, but there weren't a lot of photographers back then anyways, to be honest with you, because film was expensive.
Yeah, very expensive. And the guys that were there, I mean, they were hitting the mags though. Like
they were, yeah. If you got the right photog look in your direction, you definitely could get. There was a good chance you might get in a magazine for sure.
Okay. Were you going to Hawaii or anything else like that too?
I did go to Hawaii a bit, a couple years. I would go there and stay with this guy named Johnny Theodore. He lived at Sunset Beach, and I was there. Actually, Chris Malloy was his roommate when he first moved over there, and I was good friends with Poncho Sullivan. Poncho lived here actually for a while, and so when he moved back to Hawaii, we actually flew back together, me, him, and Alex Little, and so he ended up staying in Hawaii from that point on, and I came back, obviously. When I still had that was like my senior year of school, so I think that was my second year on the North Shore, and then I think I did one more year, and then I didn't really go back. But I didn't do contests over there. I just went and just surfed, and kind of just enjoyed it.
Were you picking your days, or were you going out every day, no matter what the size was in Hawaii?
I surfed Sunset pretty big. I never felt real comfortable in big backside barrels, so pipe kind of scared me a little bit.
Yeah,
I surfed it it was a small day, looking back now, but and I got dragged across the bottom pretty hard, and so I got pretty gun shy. Yeah, just gun shy about that spot. And then with the crowd, it makes it kind of scary. I didn't mind like Sunset, like big open ocean, even though I'd get hammered, but I knew I wasn't going to hit the bottom, so for some reason that didn't scare me as much. So I focused on that. Velzy Land. I liked surfing Velzy Land, and some of the like spots like Rocky Point, stuff like that. But
let's go back to your music. So you're into the music. What's the name of the band? And what were you guys playing? Like local gigs, or were you going to Hollywood? Or
yeah, I was called Mind Riot. We grew up playing with Incubus, who's big band now.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah, they're huge. But we used to share equipment and play shows together, like promote shows together. So we would play local like parties, and we played like Mike Lamb owned a surf shop here in Calabasas for a bit, and we played like his grand opening, which is pretty cool.
So cool.
Then we started doing Hollywood shows, and there was a club in the Valley called Mancini's. That was a pretty cool club, and and then my band, me and my brother, like brothers do, fought a lot, and so we kind of split up at some point. Incubus never split up, and they stayed with it. I have no doubt that we probably could have gone further with our music if we stayed together and kind of focused more, but life just changed things. Trajectories changed. Yeah.
Does your brother still play music today?
He does, yeah. He writes a lot of his own. Jeff Pierce.
Is he in bands and stuff too, or is he just doing like his own stuff?
He's just writing a lot of his own music right now. He had been in a bunch of bands after that. He was actually there was a club called the Key Club in Hollywood, and they were they were the house band there for a little bit.
Wow, that's
huge.
cool.
Yeah, they were good.
Were you guys partying too? Like, was that fun part of it, or were you guys kind of like staying sober during the gigs, like beer? I'm talking about beer and stuff.
No, definitely not staying sober. We were drinking a lot, drinking a lot of beer. That's really it, though. Like just drinking beer a lot. Yeah, probably too much sometimes, but we were like, we were right there at like 19, 20 years old. And that was like our coming out kind of thing. So
for sure.
Yeah, big parties.
And then the gigs, were you guys getting like a following, or was it like the same people showing up at the shows, or were you getting like pulling all around from LA, all different angles?
We had a following, like a local following, and then started to kind of build up a little bit, but it was way harder to grow a band back then. It was a lot of word of mouth.
Yeah. What year is this? Let's see.
This was 93.
93. Okay.
Yeah. We would go down to Hollywood and like they would let you go into the clubs and pass out flyers if you had an upcoming show. So we would
Oh,
go
cool.
down and like go to the Roxy or the Whiskey and
Wow.
like pass out flyers, and we'd run into like Ricky Rackman was like hanging out
Oh,
out
yeah,
front.
yeah.
So we'd kind of schmooze with him, or I don't know, just kind of, we were just stupid little kids running around
You're having fun, though.
yeah, having fun and causing problems more than anything.
Okay. Really? So what was the problems you caused?
Well, I'm thinking of a story. It was a PSAA at Lowers. Paul Gomez had just kicked me off of Billabong.
Okay.
And so I was like, Pearl Jam was playing that night at the Palladium. And they were just coming, like they had just like gotten huge. So this was
Just
like
getting their steam going.
yeah, their first headlining tour, and they were huge. Their first album was out, and he was going there because he's always been connected with the music scene, and so I asked him because Poncho was going and a bunch of those guys. So I was like, "Can I go?" And he's like, "Oh, I don't even know if we're gonna go." And you're not gonna go? He's like, "Oh, I'll let you know if we go." I'm like, "Okay." Me and Strider were driving together back from the PSAA. I'm like, "Hey," I go, "We should just go and say we're Paul Gomez and go see Pearl Jam," because he told me he's not going anyways.
That's brilliant.
And so we pull up, and I'm like, dude, I'm like, Strider's like, you better say you're Paul Gomez, because I definitely don't look like a Gomez. So
Yeah, okay.
I'm like, all right, yeah. So we go up to the front, and I'm like, man, I go, we were just at the surf contest, and I left my wallet in his car down there, and I'm like, I'm Paul Gomez, but I don't have my ID. And they're like looking at us like we're crazy, and they're like, you do look like you just went surfing like all day. And I was like, yeah, we were at the contest. Like we just literally just drove here. So they go, all right, you guys could go in, but if we find out you're lying, we're gonna find you and kick you out. I'm like, yeah, no worries, we're good. And so me and Strider go in, and we're watching like the opening band, and then I think Rage Against the Machine was another band that opened for them, and so we were tripping, and then all of a sudden Strider comes running up to me, and he's like, Gomez is here. What are we gonna do? And I'm like, and he's like walking through. I could see him like looking around, like, where's Cory? Like, where's Cory and Strider? And Strider's like, I'm like hiding out, and Strider's like, I'm gonna go tell him I'm sorry. I'm like, all right. And I just hid.
That's funny.
I told Poncho. Poncho was like, dude, he's pissed. They almost didn't let him in, and he was like fired up. And so he ended up calling like Dan Egan, who ran the surf shop, and they carried Billabong at the time, and he was basically like, Cory needs to call and apologize, and blah, blah, blah. So I ended up having to make the call and be like, I'm sorry, Paul. I didn't think you were going. And he's like,
that's good.
It was pretty funny. So trouble like that, stuff like that.
That's funny. That's brilliant.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, you're thinking ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we tried.
How was Rage Against the Machine?
Amazing. Yeah, I didn't even know who they were at the time.
Right.
I couldn't believe it. So that was insane.
Did you end up seeing Pearl Jam that night?
Oh yeah, saw the whole show. Yeah,
who was better, Pearl Jam or Rage?
Pearl Jam was pretty amazing.
Were they?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, they were. I think Rage was still relatively new and
kind of rough.
I guess I didn't know what to expect. You know, they were way different than
completely different music.
Yeah, so not what you were used to hearing. So I'm sure at the time they may have killed it, and I just was like, kind of didn't get it.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
right on. That's a good story. Surfing's kind of fallen to the side, and music starts to fall to the side too.
Yes, and then right like around the same time, so like in 1994, I was working at a local hardware store, and I met my wife. My wife now, she was my girlfriend then. We dated for a little bit, and then she got pregnant. We got married. I got a job at Home Depot, and then it was hard to make ends meet. Benefits weren't great. So I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I ended up joining the Coastguard, which was a really cool experience. It was scary going into it, you know, being like a surfer guy who's never missed a day in the ocean. And now I'm at boot camp in Cape May, New Jersey, like in a barracks getting yelled at. So it was a trip. And then I worked on a boat for a bit. We went up to Alaska a bit. But the cool thing was we got housing. We ended up living in Seal Beach. So when I was home, I was a couple blocks from the beach and surfing Northside, Seal Beach, or Huntington or Newport. So I was surfing a lot, actually,
Oh,
which was pretty cool
okay.
when I was home. And then my daughter was born, my oldest daughter. I still surfed a ton, but traveled a lot. And then at some point, we ended up, I went to school to be a mechanic for airplanes, and we went to Mobile, Alabama, is where I got stationed. So I thought at that point, I was like, oh, surfing's done. Like, I'm not going to surf for years now. But I ended up surfing a bit there in like Pensacola and Gulf Shores. I surfed quite a bit more than I thought I would. And then when I finished that, we moved back to California, ended up going to Bakersfield. My parents had settled down there because my mom's job got moved up there. We couldn't afford to move back to Agora because prices had gone up so high
Oh, yeah.
for housing. So we had a house in Alabama that we bought for like $75,000 and sold it for like $100,000. So we were able to move to Bakersfield and get a house.
I guess
Yeah.
cool. I don't know.
Nah, I mean,
depends how you think about it.
yeah, I mean,
I don't think
was-
anyone says I want to move to Bakersfield.
no, I was quite the family man at that point. I wasn't
Yeah.
really nothing.
That
I
was more
wasn't.
important.
Professional surfing was gone. I was finishing school. I got a business degree. I went back to work for Home Depot for a bit, and then I got a job with the Kern County Sheriff's Department. I was kind of wanted to be. I was interested in law enforcement, so I became a sheriff's deputy there.
Yeah, cool. And the Coastguard, that helped being in the military?
It did,
Yeah.
yeah. I think so. I definitely helped with going through the academy because the academy was rough. Like, but compared to being away from home and going through that in the Coast Guard, it was not hard for me.
So you become a cop or a sheriff.
Yeah.
How's that go?
It was
Is that
cool.
fun? By the way, it seems like it would be a kind of a fun gig, but it could be stressful.
I loved it. It was super stressful. I was young enough to where it was exciting for me though. Like I didn't really think of consequences quite as much as I would now, I think. I just wanted to help people. My brother at that point had become like a pretty heavy drug addict. So drugs were kind of a big part of my influence. Like I wanted to help people. And I know that when my brother would go, like if he got arrested, he would do really well when he got arrested because they had programs that he could go into. And, he'd get clean for like a year and a half and do amazing. And then as soon as they let him off probation, he'd go right back out and start using again. So it was, that was something that was interesting to me. Yeah, I don't know. I've always had like this passion to like serve my country, serve community. And I had a lot of family that was military, but I didn't know anybody in law enforcement.
So you're like the first one of the family.
Yeah, pretty much.
So you do that for how long?
So I was there for 4 years. I actually joined another band up there during that time.
Okay. So you're kind of jamming on the side?
So I was doing music because I had a lot of free time because it was hard to
You went
surf.
surfing.
I was surfing in the Police and Fire Olympics, actually. So I would drive to like every year they would have the Police and Fire Olympics surfing contest, and I would go do that. I'd like not surf for months and then go surf that.
So how did you do? I mean, how hard was it to pick up the board and even paddling and all that? Were you good, or was it hard? Like there was a stage where you were like kind of kooking it?
I don't think I ever lost.
Really?
Yeah. And there were some pretty good guys. So
yeah,
there were some good dudes.
That's impressive, actually.
Yeah, it was. I may have gotten like second in one of them, but I do the longboard and the shortboard, and I'd usually get the gold medal in both of them. But
so were you literally not surfing until your heat, or like I would surf for a year or two and then stand up?
Well, I was surfing like once a month. I would go surf.
Okay,
probably
just to kind of keep your.
Yeah, like we'd go camp in Ventura and I'd surf and like take the kids surfing and stuff, or I'd go to Malibu and surf or something like that. But just not regularly. I think I was still in pretty good shape. I was working out a lot, so trying to stay in decent shape.
So then where do you go from there? You want out of Bakersfield or what? What's going on?
So I transferred to San Luis Obispo Police Department, moved to Arroyo Grande, Pismo Beach area.
All right, that's more your type.
Yeah,
you're right by the water.
Basically, I had a sergeant that was really bummed that I was leaving. He was like, "What a waste," because they paid for me to go through the academy. I did my 4 years and then skedaddled, and they were like, "Man," I was like,
"That happens a lot, actually."
It happens a lot. I know LAPD. It happens all the time. People go and they get their credentials and then they move on to someplace they want to go. San Luis Obispo was awesome. It was a great place to raise the family, and way more beautiful. There was surfing. Water was cold. Really cool surf community there that I connected with. That's where my son really started getting into surfing. And
That's cool.
so that was huge for me because he took to it pretty quick and started competing, and he got really good. And basically I was like coaching him and driving him
Kind of being
everywhere.
like your dad.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's cool. Okay, let me ask you this though. On a side note, okay, so you have crime in Bakersfield and crime in San Luis Obispo. Are they different crimes, or are they still the same?
Totally different. Totally different. Like, I mean, there are elements of, there's some bad elements in the area. Eventually I started working narcotics a lot, and you would branch out. I was in a task force, and you would kind of see a lot more, especially in like some of the backwoods areas, like Pasarolas, Atascadero, Santa Maria was nearby, and that's a pretty big drug hub, and a lot of gangs. So yeah, that zone wasn't too far away, so you'd get a lot of that. A lot of stuff.
Are we talking like marijuana or like something harder?
No, yeah, hard drugs, like cartel trafficking.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was pretty.
I think most people are just oblivious to it.
Yeah,
I am.
There's like little hubs. Usually, farming communities are like Salinas, Bakersfield, Fresno. Like all these farming communities are usually pretty big drug hubs.
Really, they're hiding behind the farms.
You just have a lot of Mexican nationals that have connections with the cartels that move drugs, and that's where
kind of sketchy.
They go from Mexico to these hubs, and then they distribute from there. So it's pretty
sketchy.
Pretty heavy. Yeah,
so you never know who you're in contact with when you're at McDonald's or something.
No,
in those areas.
It's actually more dangerous, I think, in San Luis Obispo because you start to get that like you don't expect that sometimes.
Right, I wouldn't.
So,
I think it's super safe.
Yeah, so for a cop, you do a traffic stop, and if you're not on your game, it could be very dangerous. So
wow, yeah, it never even crossed my mind. I figured it was more country folk.
It's actually more college kids in the city of San Luis Obispo. So that was most of the time that's who you're dealing with. Which college kids sell kilos of cocaine.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought they'd just be drunk in public.
No, we'd do kilo of cocaine cases, ecstasy cases,
really?
all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Oh my god! And you're still enjoying that?
Yeah, I loved it.
Not today, but then I'm talking about that.
Yeah. Then I was loving it. Yeah, for sure.
You were loving it.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Okay. So then what happens?
So at that point, I'm driving my son to surf contests. He's sponsored. He's doing his thing. And then I end up hurting my back on the job, serving a search warrant, and end up getting addicted pretty heavily to painkillers.
Wow.
And I didn't think it happened all that much, but after going through everything, it's actually a really common thing. I found out like a lot of firefighters, a lot of nurses, a lot of doctors, anybody who has a physical job and gets injured on the job, and it's pretty common because you're going through work comp. It's a very slow process. Mm-hmm. So you're on these medications for long periods of time, and before you know it, you go to try to stop, and you get violently ill for weeks on end. If you take one more pill, just take one pill, all that sickness, all that violently, it's basically like the worst flu you've ever had, the worst anxiety you've ever had. And you take a pill and it goes away for a few hours. And that's how you get kind of in this cycle. So it was a pretty heavy thing. I was fighting this addiction for probably about a year and a half, I think.
Okay.
I had even gone so far as to like drive to Santa Maria to go to like Narcotics Anonymous meetings and try and like find some way to stay clean and not be in this situation, even as a cop, as a narcotics detective, a narcotics detective that's working undercover. I would have to drive like 40 miles away to go to a meeting so nobody would recognize me.
Recognize you, yeah.
And even then, who knows? You don't know if somebody's going to recognize you. So I was trying my hardest to try and get off it, but I was also very prideful and afraid to ask for help. I couldn't really utilize the program like I wanted because of my position. And so eventually, just any addiction is going to build if you're not doing anything about it. And eventually I made stupid mistakes worked with, I had an informant that I kind of befriended and somebody that I was working with in law enforcement, and they were providing me with Suboxone, which is basically like it's kind of like methadone. It's like a long-term, it's an opiate, but it helps you through withdrawals, but it's very addicting. And so even if you're on that, you're still using, you're still getting high.
Okay.
I mean, you're not high, but you're not sick, but you're still addicted to it. Because as soon as you stop taking it, you're going to get sick.
Wow.
So at this point, I'm interacting with this informant. This informant ends up going to the FBI, basically turning me in. I end up getting arrested by the FBI, going to federal prison for about 18 months.
Wow.
Which was pretty heavy.
Yeah.
I lost my job, obviously. Thought I was losing my family. It was kind of a relief in a way, because I knew that was the end of it for me, because I just knew that was the end of it. Like everything came crashing down, which I needed something to snap me out of it. And I think that was what did it. I've been clean since then. So this was in 2013. So I was a cop for 12 years prior to that. I ended up going to I got out on my own recognizance, so I didn't have to go straight to jail. I got booked and released, and then I moved in with my parents. Went to like a outpatient program and NA meetings, got connected in all that. Eventually earned my wife's trust back a bit, and she ended up moving to San Diego. We ended up moving to San Diego. It was for a family reason. Her sister lives down there. So my sister-in-law lived down there, and she wanted to be close to the family. It was, my kids went through like a lot with their schools and stuff like that. And it was,
yeah, of course.
It basically turned our whole family upside down and inside out.
Yeah.
So it was, they needed a change. That was a good option. So then I moved down there while I was waiting for my case to go through. My son was going to Point Loma High School. He got on the surf team down there and was thriving in school and thriving with that. My oldest daughter at that point was going to college in Chico. And then my youngest daughter had to relocate to a different school down there and stuff. But she adjusted pretty well. But it was a different lifestyle in San Diego. I was surfing a lot. I had to check in with like probation while I was waiting. Eventually my case settled and I had to turn myself in. And so I went to federal prison camp in New Mexico. So I was far away. So I basically didn't see my family for almost 18 months. They came and visited me one time.
Wow.
And so I was just doing that, working on my recovery, writing a lot, exercising a lot. This is not a lot to do. So that's what I was doing. When I got done with that, I moved back, and my friend Pete Rocky extended a hand and talked to some people that he knew who ran a printing company, and he actually helped me get a job. And
it's so cool.
That was like the step to rebuild my life. It was from there. I did that for a while, and then eventually I got another job from there, which was like a stepping stone to what I'm doing now, which is basically like asset protection for a large company, which kind of ties like a lot of my stuff together, a lot of my business degree, and it ties my law enforcement background together. So it works really well. It allows me to surf a ton. And
that's right.
So I've been surfing more now. So eventually I ended up moving back up to Thousand Oaks area and so the LA area. And I've been up here for about 5 years. My family's all still together, and my son's still surfing. He's in New York now, going to school. Everybody's doing awesome. Yeah, I'm kind of skipping over a lot of stuff, but
of course, yeah.
But basically,
I have a million other questions, but
it's a giant just rebuilding of my life, and it happened in such a quick succession. Pretty friggin' amazing.
But my one question I do have is, you said you just couldn't stop, but then all of a sudden you're at home, right? You still had those same pains, those still sicknesses, but you just couldn't do it anymore. I mean, like,
I couldn't. I was gonna go.
So you just got sick. Yeah,
I just got sick and got over it.
Yeah, it sucks.
And it was,
That's crazy.
honestly, it took me about to feel, to have, well, I mean, there was obviously a lot of anxiety, and a lot of it
Hmm.
probably came from not knowing what was going to happen to me. So I'm sure my
Yeah, it's
withdrawals
super
were,
stressful.
it was just, it was probably worse than
Worse.
it would ever
Yeah.
be. But I needed that structure. I needed that threat of getting in trouble in order
Yeah.
to stop. And I'm sure a lot of people, I mean, they say the only way you're going to stop doing drugs, the only outcome is jails, institution, and death if you continue
Wow.
using drugs. So, and that was true for me for sure. Like,
Yeah.
definitely ended up in jails.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've done everything I can. I'm still going to Narcotics Anonymous. I'm still
Mm.
participating in the program. It's helped me just kind of slow down and be in the moment more.
Hmm.
I
Okay.
think I've always been pretty obsessive, and I think that's why I jumped around to a lot of things. Like, so
Yeah.
I'd obsess about surfing, and then when I got into
Yeah.
music, I obsessed about music, and then when I got into the military, I obsessed about that, and it was always in me. It just never never ended up being a bad addiction until drugs were introduced, and then there
Yeah.
was a negative effect, because it could be
Wow.
a positive effect if you're super focused on surfing or school, and like that's all you think about and you obsess over it, or working out. But as soon as you obsess over something that's negative in your life, then that's when there's consequences, and that's what happened.
Right after you got in trouble, did you start surfing more, or were you not surfing?
Surfed a ton.
Did
Yeah.
that help take a little bit of anxiety away, maybe?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
I threw myself into helping my son. He was still doing contests and surfing for his high school team, so I would go
Yeah.
and I would help coach and participate in that a lot.
Full life. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, and I didn't have a job at the time. I was getting like unemployment for a bit, and then living off of like a retirement IRA that I had. Eventually, I had to make more money, so I started like a surf school and doing some surf lessons and surf coaching. So I was in the water a ton, getting stung by stingrays every freaking weekend.
So does this story happen a lot, you think?
Probably not identical, but yeah, it's definitely like, so I reached out to some people. Actually, one of the people I reached out to initially was Sonny Garcia, because
Mm.
he had been to federal prison, and I didn't know what to expect. He was friends with Poncho, so Poncho put me in touch with him, and he actually kind of broke it down for me, let me know what it was like, and said that there's more of that than you think. Kind of made me
Yeah.
feel a little better about it. So that was
Hmm.
nice. Yeah, I think it happens a lot, because
Yeah, it sucks.
it took me a long time to share my story. Once I did, so yeah, so I would go to NA meetings, and it was really hard for me to tell my story. I just felt like it was too much vulnerability for me to handle.
Yeah.
And once I did, and I got this feeling of acceptance from everybody in the
Hmm.
meetings and stuff, you start to get people coming up to you going, "Oh my God, like there's a few of us out here. Like I was a cop and same thing happened to me, or I was a firefighter, same thing happened to me, or
Wow.
businessmen, or anything." I mean,
Wow.
it doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter who you are. You could be the president's son.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, at least you made it. You're on the backside of it now. It's all good now, right?
It's been incredible. I have this inner peace that I never had before. And
Okay, cool.
I owe that to surfing, the Narcotics Anonymous program, which was, it gives you this like calmness, and it helps you, it gives you tools to deal with your obsessiveness.
Okay.
So it's pretty huge.
How did the other people in NA accept you being a cop? You'd almost think you'd be shunned, maybe.
You'd think you would, but it's not like that.
That's cool.
It's
That's
all
good.
accepting. Like
It's good to hear.
if they don't accept you, that's their problem. Is
Okay.
basically how I've been taught. Is we're there to help other addicts. So one
Yeah.
addict helping another is without parallel, and it's
Cool.
something that only an addict can understand what another addict's going through, and how they think, and how they feel, and how they react to things. Our decision making as addicts is not good, so we have to rely on somebody else
Wow.
It's pretty it's a neat program. I'm sure I've had people roll their eyes when I've said it, like these parolees. Usually it's somebody who's not really participating in the program fully. They're just there to just be there. My sponsor calls them takers, not givers. And so you just have to kind of roll with that.
Yeah.
It might bug me in the moment, but eventually I use it as a tool.
Wow, that's a heavy story, but I mean, I'm glad you are where you are today.
Yeah,
Thank God.
I'm in the best place I could possibly be.
Yeah, I could have went anywhere. I mean, it could be way worse.
Absolutely.
Do you think that homelessness in, let's say, California, because it's so rampant, has a lot to do with what you went through? They just didn't get the help?
It has a lot to do with that. It has a lot to do with mental health and the leniency of our justice system from what I see. Like I said, my brother and other people that I've arrested for drugs have gone through like Prop 36, which was basically a drug treatment program. But they had to get arrested in order to go through that. That was their first introduction to recovery. They may not have ever gotten recovery from there. And if that's the case, and right now they're decriminalizing a lot of drugs. If you get caught with less than a sellable amount of drugs right now, you're not going to jail. You're going to get a ticket. You're going to go to court. You probably have to pay a fine. You might get on like a year of probation, which is unsupervised, informal probation. And that's what's leading to this. Overcrowding in prisons, reducing programs, closing up our justice system, and kind of tying the hands of law enforcement and mental health workers.
Wow.
At least that's my take on it.
So I guess it's not a political show, but it is fascinating. I'm fascinated by it. All right. So, well, Cory, that's a super gnarly story, but let's not end on that note.
All right.
Okay. Here's what I want to know. How has Malibu changed over the years? Because you surf it a lot. So on your Instagram shows you like getting a good wave a lot.
Yeah.
From a surf line showing you ripping Malibu. So how has it changed?
Surfline never misses a shot. I probably rely on that too much, but sometimes
no, it's cool.
It's always fun to watch your waves when you get a decent.
Of course.
Wave. So it's fun to watch your sessions, even if it's from 4,000
yards away.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
but
couple hundred.
So
yards.
Malibu's changed in a way where, well, the brakes changed a lot. They did a big restoration project. I put that in air quotes. For the lagoon. You should talk to Andy Lyon about that. He'd be a good one to talk to. He was actually a politician. He's from Malibu. He's a politician.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
Yeah, he surfs Malibu all the time, but he was very involved in fighting that. It was supported by Surfrider Foundation. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but it was very political. Okay. It ended up ruining the lagoon. They basically poured a crap ton of cement out there to create these islands, which ricochets the water down to the pier area, which is not ideal for the point. So you want the water to come out as far up on the point as possible.
So then the
sand washes down. And what that does is it just creates more of a point break, right? The first, second, and third point it creates.
Yep.
So now, because it often moves towards the bottom, it creates a very straight section at the top, which is why a lot of people like Alan Sarlo stopped surfing second and third point, and now they exclusively surf first point.
Okay.
It's because first point is really the
truly
only
a point break,
pace of the wave. But occasionally I like to go top. I'll get like 2 or 3 good turns on a wave. There's a lot less people to battle with. I don't have to battle against longboarders because that's a whole.
They can't make the wave.
No. So it's
so it's a lot more like Huntington or something like a beach break.
It can be beach breaky. When it gets big, sometimes it can be makeable, but it's fast. It's fast. Yeah. You have to pick the right
swing
wave.
Wide kind of thing.
Yeah, it'll swing down. You want the ones that have more of a corner, more of a shoulder, because if it's got a wall, you're not going to make it. And a lot of people get fooled into like I'm watching the Jeffreys Bay contest, and a lot of those waves are very tricky because they're so down the line that you almost don't know where to fit your turn. And so people get lulled into trying to just race, and eventually it closes out and you miss a ton of sections.
No turns.
Right. So it's, I try and just focus on like each section, and then if it holds up, I keep going, but it's, but it's a fun wave. It's fast, super fast.
Will it ever go back to its glory, you think? Are they fighting to get it back to how it used to be?
I don't think they're ever going to rip that cement out. So I don't see it ever happening. One thing that does happen occasionally is somebody sneaks up there and opens up the creek at the very top when
that's cool.
when the lagoon gets full. Usually at the beginning of the year or something like that. Or if we get a big crazy rain, it'll bust through because of the pressure. It'll push through the top, but it doesn't usually last.
Yeah, are they using like their hands, like shovels, or are they using bulldozer? Or what are they using?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't know.
Wink, wink, or no? You don't know.
No, I don't know. I don't know. I guess it was really close the other day. It actually broke through the other day, and it was just like some little kid with a shovel.
Cool.
Went to town on it. And,
Oops.
yeah, that was pretty funny. I think I made a comment on this Instagram page called Sea List that I follow. It's pretty funny. It's some Malibu local, but he posted something, and I said, "Oh, didn't anyone tell him to like go a little further up the point?" And they said he was guided by the hand of God. So we don't know.
Okay. That is funny.
I thought it was funny.
All right, Malibu crowds. Like, it's always been a thick crowd. You know, you hear the stories like Mickey Dora days and all that.
Yeah.
And it's only gotten worse. Like, First Points is so gnarly.
It's ridiculous.
People that shouldn't be out there.
Yeah, Brad Jacobson has some amazing YouTube videos of the crowd there and how crazy it gets. First Point's nuts. I won't go there. I try not to go down there. And usually when I do, I end up regretting it. I try and stay up top, focus on my little zone up there.
Yeah, but so people like me, I want a point break when I go up there. That's why I'm heading up there.
Yeah. Well,
I don't want to surf a beach break. And that's basically what second and third is to me.
There's spots where, like, we have our lineup spots, even at First Point, where, sorry about the dogs barking.
No, you're cool.
There's some lineup spots where if you're in that spot, like Alan Sarlo has a good spot. Ryan Condor is another friend of mine who surfs first a lot, has a good lineup spot. And if you get the right wave from that spot, you're going fast enough to where even longboarders aren't going to drop in on you usually.
Yeah, you're just staying ahead of them.
Yeah, so there's ways to do it. Sarlo just spends so much time out there that if he's
no one's taking off in front of him.
People know they're not going, So he just demands that respect. And
so is he the modern king?
He is. He's
held that down for years, right? For decades.
Yeah, he has. Yeah.
Good for him.
He's an inspiration for me for sure. He's, 60 some years old and still ripping. Traveling. Yeah. He's in great shape. He had surgery, recovered. He's back out there. He's an impressive guy.
Is it all from surfing, or is he working out and stuff too? I know you can't speak on his behalf.
Yeah, I don't know what else he does. He surfs a lot. I know that.
He surfs a lot.
If there's waves,
he's there.
Yeah, he's always there. And if there's a swell, he's surfing 3 times a day, and he outsurfs me for sure. I can't spend that much time on the water. I get too tired.
So rad. That's so rad. Is there any other guys that you got to watch out for in Malibu besides you?
Ricky Schaefer surfs good. He just, he's everywhere though. He lives in Oceanside, but I see him at Malibu low.
He lives in Oceanside?
I see him everywhere. Yeah. He was living in Oceanside. I don't know where he's living now, but he's always out there. Jordan Tapas, I grew up surfing with him. There's a ton of like good local guys. I got CC Bekeloff tied into the Malibu scene now. He's like, he wouldn't go there for the longest time. He's like, that's the worst wave on the planet. That's what he would say. And he says that about a lot of places, but.
So what about like Zuma and stuff like that? Are you staying away from Zuma?
God, Zuma used to be so good when I was a kid. It just doesn't. Too? I don't know. I don't know why. It has its moments. Usually it's better in the wintertime. It has its moments. Like when it's good, it's freaking good. Like close to shore barrels. It's got to be really peaky. Pretty heavy. I mean, people get hurt there. Especially like at the drain pipes side, so the westward side. Yep. That spot gets pretty heavy. But yeah, there's
what about like Leo Creo or Zeros or any of those kind of places? You ever surf there?
Yeah, Leo's fun. It's crowded. There's only one takeoff spot.
One takeoff, yeah.
A lot of longboarders, a lot of people that don't surf very well that go out there. There's not really like a local vibe, so
there isn't?
Not really, not there.
Okay. A lot of longboarders.
Yeah, there's a lot of longboarders. Zeros, I don't surf much. I've surfed a couple times. Pretty fun, but A lot of goofy foots like to go there just because it's left, but
Yeah, that's a good fun way.
it's okay.
Yeah.
County line has its moments.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, it's that place is nuts too. It's super crowded. I like surfing way up the top of the point. Well, it's kind of a point. It's like it's like a half point
too, right?
Yeah, they do, but it's like it's not much of a point, but
yeah,
it has its moments.
Right on. Well, I'm glad you're still surfing all the time.
Yeah,
it just took you. You had to go a long way around, right?
Yeah,
kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, it was always a part of my life. It was always there. It was never something like it. I don't think I would go more than maybe the longest might have been 2 or 3 months not surfing in my life. Okay.
Before all the bullshit happened, though, let's say when you first moved to Bakersfield and everything was going good, did you get crabby? Would your wife understand that, like, I'm not surfing, so I'm kind of a little edgy, or did you not get that way?
Definitely, I think. I don't know. You know what? I was, from being in Alabama before that, I think I kind of got used to it.
But you surfed?
I did surf occasionally. It wasn't a lot, and usually the waves weren't very good, but it was kind of the same thing. So going from there to Bakersfield, I actually felt like I surfed more because no matter what, if I went to the beach, there were waves. In Alabama or Florida, there's days when you can't even surf.
Did you surf Floribama?
I did. I surfed.
How was that place? That looks good. The Sterling Spencer movies, they look good.
Yeah, there's a couple spots there that are pretty incredible when they're on. Yeah. I surfed this sandbar that's like a left point basically, and one day when it was like a big swell, like a hurricane swell, and it was as good as it gets anywhere. How's
the crowd there?
It was crowded. It was
really
crowded. Yeah, pretty crowded.
Malibu crowded, like just people shouldn't be out there.
Yeah, because if there's waves, everyone who surfs in
is going
100-mile or 300-mile radius is going. Yeah.
Wow.
So it gets crowded.
You probably write a book about this. You should write a book in your life.
I should.
Oh, you're writing. So. Right on, Cory. I appreciate you coming on the Quivercast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Some heavy situations, some funny ass situations.
Yeah.
That Paul Gomez stories is absolutely great. I love it.
I know. Hopefully you could talk to him and ask him about it and see. I wonder if he has a different take on it.
I'm sure it does.
He's like, that punk. Nah.
Yeah. That's so funny. Right on. So thank you for joining the Quivercast. Mike and Cory, we're out of here.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
100 foot out choke food, 100 racks on a surf dude. Slippery, big guns like Mark Food. Trap jumping like a kangaroo. 100 foot out choke food, 100 racks on a surf dude. Slippery, big guns like Mark Food. Trap jumping like a kangaroo. You know we don't fuck with no kooks. Your boo on my didgeridoo. They calling me dude, I'm stacking the loot. I'm ripping your chick in the coop. She grabbing a hold of my leggy. They jelly, they Gucci my weddy. The fridge of Giuseppe, the chain is so heavy, she think that I'm charging the Eddie. 100 foot out choke food, 100 racks on a surf dude. Slippery, big guns like Mark Food. Trap jumping like a kangaroo. 100 foot out choke food, 100 racks on a surf dude. Slippery, big guns like Mark Food. Trap jumping like a kangaroo. Surf trap, I'm stacking that money. Cash, more shorts, a red Ferrari. He starts to calling me Dundee. Diamonds are surfing McFlurry. She want me to teach her to surf. Splash, I'm pulling up, ripping the verse. I'm leaving these kooks in the hearse. They get moved 100 foot on their head, they get work. 100 foot out choke food, 100 racks on a surf dude. Slippery, big guns like Mark Food. Trap jumping like a kangaroo. 100 foot out choke food, 100 racks on a surf dude. Slippery, big guns like Mark Food. Trap jumping like a kangaroo. You know we don't fuck with no kooks. You know we don't fuck with no kooks. You calling me dude, I'm stacking the loot. I'm ripping your chick in the coop. You know we don't fuck with no kooks. You know we don't fuck with no kooks. They calling me dude, I'm stacking the loot. I'm ripping your chick in the coop.
Hey, you guys, Endless Summer box set. This thing is legit. It's authentic, numbered certificate in it. It has a 5-frame film strip from the original print. You will literally own a piece of history. It has a specially minted bronze medallion Dude, that thing's sick. Okay, there's so much more here. Go to the show notes. There's a link on there. Go check this piece of history out. This thing's rad. Seriously. Smithsonian American History Museum has it. It took 4 years of research with 3.5 in production, all hand assembled. This thing's rad. So much to this awesome box set. Remastered DVD, sharper images than the original film, but dude, this thing's so sick. Link in the show notes.